Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. I'm going to talk about ABC News playing with fire. Apparently they want to get sued by Trump again. I don't know. This is one of their correspondents, Terry Moran, was suspended after ranting against Trump advisor Stephen Miller. He eats his hate and actually said Trump is a world-class hater, hatred, awful people, bad people, very bad people. Here's the thing. That's an opinion, right? But the reason they suspended him, I'm going to tell you, the reason they suspended Terry Moran, or Moran, I don't know how it's pronounced. I guess Terry Moran, sure, fine, whatever, is because Disney got sued. They got sued by Trump. They had to pay $16 million to settle with Trump. Bob Iger wants favors from Trump. Remember, they had a visit not too long ago about their overseas park, Middle Eastern park, Saudi park. And, they can't afford to piss him off again. Let's put it that way, right? So it's like they just don't know when to just stop. And this is after, apparently, The View was told to knock it off with all the Trump outrage, because again, they're trying to avoid another legal entanglement. But this is interesting. This is another sign of the times, right? They know that Trump is, love him or hate him, is highly litigious, and they've already had to pay millions of dollars, and they don't want their journalists running at the mouths and risking another lawsuit. And look, if they want to say that on their own podcast or whatever, that's fine. But when you're saying it on ABC News, then the company is responsible for it. That's like any of these gaming journos. Like, they're allowed to have their hot takes. They're allowed to say whatever the hell they want to say. That is freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say. If you're working for a private company and they say, hey, don't say this as long as you work for us, this is a condition of your employment, don't get us into lawsuits, they're allowed to do that as well. You don't like it, you can go someplace else. The government can't stop you from saying Trump is a gas bag doo-doo head or whatever the hell they try to come up with, but but again, then you have to. Then if you get sued, you got to be able to prove it. Like, is he indeed a gas? What do I call him? A gas bag doo-doo head? Is he a doo-doo head? Is his head literally filled with feces? Because if his head is not literally filled with feces, then you've defamed him or something. I don't know. Hey, look, I'm not a lawyer. This definitely is not a legal channel, so don't take any of my legal advice. Anyway, let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe. More pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Again, Geeky seeing this one out. This is kind of a daily dose of dismal Disney, but it does show that they are reining their people in for better or for worse. This comes from the New York Post. ABC correspondent Terry Moran suspended after wild rant against top Trump advisor. He eats his hate. Senior national correspondent Terry Moran has been suspended after going on a late night screed against top White House advisor Stephen Miller, along with President Trump, on social media, drawing scathing backlash from the Trump administration. Moran, who landed an interview with the president in April, blasted Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, as a man richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. The thing about Stephen Miller is that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he's one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement. He's the Trumpiest of the Trump thumpers. Translates them into policy, but that's not what's interesting about Miller, he said. It's not his brains, it's his bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. So this is about immigration. He eats his hate. What? That doesn't even make sense. Terry Moran it is. Trump is a world-class hater. His hatred is only a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. ABC News now Sunday, it was suspending him over concerns about him violating the outlet's standards on impartiality and objectivity. Again, see also the $16 million they had to cough up recently to settle the suit because George Stephanopoulos called him a grapist repeatedly. And he said, well, I'm not a grapist. You can't prove that I graped anybody. ABC News stands for objectivity and impartiality. No, that is not true. And it's news coverage and does not condone subjective personal attacks on others. The Post does not reflect the views of ABC News and violated our standards. As a result, Terry Moran has been suspended pending further evaluation. Spokesperson told the Post. Moran later deleted his posts, but not before they were screenshotted and spread across X like wildfire. An ABC journalist posted this absolutely vile smear of Stephen Miller. It's dripping with hatred. Remember that every time you watch ABC's coverage of the Trump administration, Vice President J.D. Vance posted on X. I don't know that many conservatives are watching ABC News. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here. Moran's tirade against Miller came as tensions boiled over in LA, yes, where hundreds of protesters attempted to derail Border Patrol apprehensions near Paramount, California. That's a whole rabbit hole we're not going down. We're not an overly political channel here. The only reason I'm covering this is it does relate to Disney. Disney owns ABC. Disney's had to cough up money because their people don't know when to stop. Right. And again, you can say whatever you want to, but you got to do it outside of your corporate employment, and you have to be responsible for yourself. I think the best thing to do, honestly, if you're going to work with freelancers, and this is true with these different video game sites and stuff, because these people get them into lawsuits all the time. Look at Deadspin. One of their journos went on a tirade against a child for wearing native presenting makeup. I can't really say because it was obviously, but to a Kansas City Chiefs game. And then they tried to say the child was a racist and the child was wearing blackface. And it turned out the kid was actually a member of a native tribe, I guess. And that was the whole thing. But his life was ruined. His dad's life was ruined. And Deadspin, they were just going to kind of hand wave it. And then the site got sold. So Geo Media didn't have to they thought they were, I think they thought they were going to get out of it, and they weren't, actually out of the woods. But I think you should make these journalists carry their own insurance, their own liability insurance. You can buy that. You can buy professional liability insurance. It's not cheap. Trust me, I know it's not cheap. But if somebody decides to sue you, they can sue the journo and they can take it up with their insurance company. Be like, no, the journo said that. They're a freelancer. They said that. It doesn't reflect the views of the company, but we ran it because, we believe in freedom of speech, whatever. Take it up with them. Sue them. Don't sue us. That's what I think would change people's tunes a lot. If you had to be financially responsible for it, and all media outlets carry liability insurance for this sort of thing, I'm sure, or they should. But again, it's not cheap. It's not something that like normal people do. But sometimes when you're threatened, often with lawsuits, it's smart to have it. It's smart to have professional liability insurance. Anyway, the news correspondent has been shy about weighing in on some of the politically dicey subjects he covers. Last November, Moran explained he predicted Trump would win in 2016, 2024. Yeah, I think most rational people would take a look at the country in both of those election cycles and be like, yeah, Trump's totally going to win because the Democrats have lost the plot. He basically wins by default. I mean, that's my take. I mean, you're talking to a guy who was a Democrat for many, many years. And I looked at the Trump situation in 2016. I'm like, he won by default because, and same with 2024. Like, you didn't present a good candidate. Like, that, you had no chance. You had no chance whatsoever. You basically handed him the presidency twice. And we could debate about 2020. That's a whole nother thing. The way to understand Trump is to see him not as a Republican or Democrat, not as a conservative or liberal, but as a nationalist. And like many nationalist leaders, he's a man with an authoritarian cast of mind and a personality to match. Noting he was not endorsing a particular political point of view. So, they're bringing this up in the Post. In December, ABC had to pay $15-16 million to settle. And that's why they're telling their View host to bring it in. They're not listening. They'll probably get sued at some point. And that's why they suspended this guy. Disney doesn't want to pay for this anymore. Plus, Bob Iger wants favors. He wants favors from Trump, so he'll play the game to get what he wants, in my opinion. Gonna wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.